Hey everyone, it's Xant. We're almost at the end of June, yet to see a Sokai, and we have all our premium materials to pick apart. It's weird times. Sorry for the delay on this video, but I did get to working on this pretty much as soon as I possibly could. There was a decent amount of work, what with 1.4 refine, fixing integrated parts, and lots of other stuff. Reminder that you have until the 30th of June to exchange for the good stuff, so don't dally for too long. Now, as I've been saying in my prior premium material videos, info about premium materials are given out in-game announcements every week. How to obtain them, and all that. Please stop asking about it. Lastly, the rules about this list can be found in the video I've gone and linked in the description. I highly recommend reading the rules so you understand my decision-making process. Now, something new I'll be doing for these videos is briefly listing the new machines we've obtained since the last video, at least the ones that are applicable to the premium materials. That helps me while making this guide, but it also makes sure you know what is going to be contending for positions. Anyways, since my last proper video in March, we've got the Crossbone X2, the Bale, Moon, Atlas, Psycho Zaku, Shenlong Endless Waltz, G-Self, and the Perfect Strike. I believe that's all of them. As for what's changed on my list, well, even after considering the integrated parts getting fixed, not much. We'll start with head slot for melee builds. We have the Pale Rider, the X-Divider, and the Bale. And the head slot for shot builds, we have the Dynames, the Lightning, and the V2. Now onto arms for melee builds, we have the Bale, the G-Self, and the Barbados. Two things to note here. The first one, G-Self. Even though it has a slightly lower than average melee attack on it, you're losing an average of about 1,000 in raw stats, the trait, however, makes up for it. At maximum, you get a 30% boost to your melee power. At minimum, that means 17%. Now, considering your suit has to have more than 16,000 melee power for this to activate, that means you're getting almost 3k back from just EX1. That's a net gain of 2,000, because you're getting, I think it's 2,700 something or 2,800 something, and you're losing about 1,000 in raw stats. So it's like 1,800 or so. So no matter what, you're coming out on top if you just scrape past the minimum. So they're good, but you do have to meet that baseline for it. The second thing to note is there is an alternative to the Barbados arms, the Beginning 30. It's pretty much the same thing, but for Outfighter instead of Infighter. The downside is, though, it does come with a shield. This reduces a slot in your build, because integrated part, but again, that's something you'll have to decide based on your build. Next up is the arm slot for shot builds. We have the Astray Blue, the Wing, and the Tall Geese Endless Waltz. The Endless Waltz has been on here for quite a while, and I'd say it's better than it used to be. Well, it definitely is, because it just got a straight buff from the 1.4 Refine update. It is a trade-off, though, because you're taking up 2 slots, meaning that those word tags are now locked in. It's up to you and what your build is like, but integrated parts do make amazing stat sticks, especially for beginners, because for the price of upgrading 1 part, you get the stats of 2. So, think it over. Now, chest slot for melee builds, we have the build Burning, Tryon 3, and the OG Gundam. And chest slot for shot builds, we have the Beginning 30, Dynames, and the V2. Now, leg slot for melee builds, we have the Red Astray, the Tryon 3, and the Shenlong Endless Waltz. And legs for shot builds, we have the V2, the Dynames, and the Finiche legs. Now, the back slot for melee builds, we have the Sengoku Astray, the Exia, and the build Burning. And the back for shot builds, Thunderbolt, Dynames, and Legolas. I was kind of on the fence. I didn't know if I want to put this or Psycho Zaku, but I went with Legolas at the end. They're pretty much interchangeable. They both have A power, same shot attack stats, so whatever your flavor is. Next, we'll go over the melee slot for melee builds. We have the Beam Saber from the Victory Gundam, the Beam Ribbon, and the Gerber Straight / Tiger Pierce. Now, if you have the gold Susanoo arms, so 5-star arms from an event a while back, do yourself a favor and pick up the Gerber Straight and Tiger Pierce dual blades. If you lack them, I would still recommend these weapons, as they have the second highest attack for melee weapons in the game, but they also include the 2 best melee word tags. And because of the existence of the Bale arms, even if you miss the Susanoo, you can just pick those from the shop instead and still get an amazing boost out of these. Now, the melee slot for shot builds, we have the Atlas Beam Saber, the Beam Scythe, and the GN Sword. Now moving on to the ranged slot for melee builds, we have the Ale Strike, the X Divider, and the Legolas. And ranged for shot builds, we have the Gundam Beam Rifle, the Lightning Beam Rifle Long Barrel, and the Big Beam Bazooka. Lastly, the shield slot, the Wing Gundam. This is the only one with offensive stats, so it's for both melee and shot. And then the Gujin Rebake Shield. This is primarily for melee because of its EX skill, but if you want to use it on a shot machine, don't let anyone stop you. And with that, we're done. I hope you weren't expecting a crazy shakeup with marks being fixed on integrated parts. They're better than before, for sure. But locking 2 slots to the same word tags and only having 1 trait or skill between them makes it arguably less than great. They 100% make great stat sticks in a pinch, no matter what, since you invest into the equivalent of 1 part and get the stats of 2. But in the end, they are a special use case type of part, because you do need to have a lot more flexibility for word tags, and yeah, you're taking up 2 slots with a single part. And as always, guys, based on the parts in this video, if you think that I missed something, if something should have been on here but isn't, or I put a bad part on, just leave a comment. I will look over all of them when I go to do my next video, and I do take your input relatively seriously. If people, kind of, if they're trolling, I'm going to ignore them, but in general, I read everyone's comments, and I do look over my list with that in mind. Anyways, I'll stop rambling. Peace out, guys, and I will see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow's live stream.